So now you have the full picture. The cost of inauguration is expensive and it is increasing. We're joined now by Anthony Chan, former chief economist at JPMorgan, to put this in perspective for us. It's good to see you again, Anthony.
Good to see you, Sean.
Okay, so why is it so expensive? Why so costly? I read a line before I came out here and it seemed pretty accurate. Pomp and circumstance, and especially security, ain't cheap.
No, that's true. And in fact, on the security front, which is mostly paid for by U.S. taxpayers, the higher costs, in some sense, is justified because we are living in a more security-sensitive world now, and there have been some attempts on the president during the campaign. So we have to keep the president safe, irrespective of which political party that president is from.
Yeah, indeed, and at least 2 attempts on Trump's life, and we also know about the horrific shooting of United Healthcare CEO in D.C. and then the attacks in Las Vegas. It just all adds up. A few taxpayers were invited, but we are all kicking in for this too. Any idea on how much it's costing the taxpayers?
Well, I think that there have been estimates out there, but I've seen some estimates suggesting that U.S. taxpayers could spend as much as $100 million. But that's still a small number compared to how much money was raised from private funds.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to all deal with.
Let's talk about the way these private funds work. We heard Amazon, we know that Zuckerberg kicked in $1 million. That's not a lot of money to those folks. But let's talk about these private donations. What do they hope to get out of this? Are they buying access to Donald Trump, or are they just saying, we know that you're going to be an important individual over the next 4 years, and we don't want you to forget us?
Well, I think it's a combination of all the factors that you've just mentioned. I think it's no secret that if you donate, irrespective of which political party you donate, the hope and expectation is that somehow that will shine a positive light on your company. And so that is no exception in this presidential inauguration cycle. You're seeing a lot of companies out there donating these huge amounts. The only question is, are we going to be reining this in with legislation?
Yeah, I think that also you have to put this in perspective. I mean, for people who aren't in D.C., I mean, I had to walk into work today because driving's a nightmare because of all the streets that are closed. But there are people everywhere in a celebratory mood. And the situation, it wasn't the same back in 2020 because of the pandemic. But in 2008, when Barack Obama won the first time, 2012, and then, of course, 2016, when Trump won the first time, people want to celebrate. This is the end of a long, hard-fought race. And this is their time to say, okay, we're going to tip the hat to you, and we're going to enjoy ourselves as well.
That's right. We're seeing a lot of that. Still, some people are concerned by the tone of your remarks. You sort of sense that if these companies and individuals are donating these huge amounts, are they trying to, in some sense, seek favor with the president, irrespective of which political party? That's something to consider. And then, of course, right now, it's almost a wild, wild west for these inauguration committees. Because when they raise all this money, there's still no control over how they spend the money, how much money they pay for different services, and whether or not they use some of those funds for personal usage.
Yeah,
so there is less legislation out there that is trying to at least have some control over that, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a good point, because back in 2017, there were a lot of concerns about the way the Trump administration, or at least those people who put on a lot of the galas, spent that money. Why isn't there any kind of way to go through and allocate how much money was spent and figure out, okay, this went here? Why is there not a full line item accounting process?
Well, there is no laws out there, no legislation that requires it. And if there is no legislation that requires it, there's no reason why any of these inauguration committees, whether they come from a Democratic side or from the Republican side, no reason why they want to shine a spotlight on how that money is spent. And more importantly, if not all the money is spent, they have no desire to divulge that, because there is at least a possibility, irrespective of which political party is doing it, that some of those funds will go into for personal usage.
Interesting. And let's talk about the security, because that is expensive, and it is really heightened this year for a variety of issues. And we know The National Guard troops are out. I've seen a number of Humvees and these hardworking U.S. troops who really don't have the cold winter clothes that so many people need right now. The temperatures in Fahrenheit, it's got to be about 20 right now. So how does security break down? Where does all this money go? Is it private? Is it from the city? Is it from the state, from the feds, or all above? Or district,
I think it's all. I think it certainly is from all the above. And here, I have to say that, irrespective of whether the candidate we're protecting is a Democrat or Republican, some of that money, a lot of that money is justified because, as I said earlier, the risk is real. We are seeing that risk all around us, whether it's something we saw during the campaign, something we see almost in our daily lives. The world is becoming more dangerous. Sean, just look at what happens when we go to the airports. We're spending a lot more money on securities just to protect individual Americans.
Anthony, you got 30 seconds left. Quickly tell me why you think that Americans are okay with this at the end of the day. They may not be fine with people spending a lot of money on a lot of things for the government, but this is a chance to celebrate an important victory.
Well, I think that if you talk to a lot of people, what they'll tell you is, since the government is spending most of its money on security, and the pomp and circumstance that you mentioned is being financed by donations, some sense it's okay. And it'll be very easy to look the other way and say that that money is not trying to seek favor with the presidential candidate in power.